All right, let's get started by setting up Visio for our use, learning how we can point to a specific location for our templates and stencils, and covering some other setup stuff that'll serve us well as we go through this journey to learn more about using Visio. So I've started Visio, and we're not really going to focus too much on creating a drawing, but I am going to open up an existing drawing that we will be using from time to time. It's a diagram that has notes in it about Visio, and I'm also using it to track kind of the course curricula, if you will. So what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about different types of files in Visio, and then we're going to talk about setting up some basic configuration things, and in the future we'll talk about when Visio by itself isn't enough, using add-ons. But for today we're going to talk about files and options. So if we go, I'm holding down the control key and clicking on this shape. Notice the little hand to navigate. There's many different kinds of files that Visio understands if you look in the lower right hand side of the screen, but the three that we're going to focus on today are the new XML based drawings, which is a .vsdx file, the .vssx file, which is a stencil, and the vstx files, which are templates. In this page here called Files, and you look down here on the page navigation part of the screen on the Files page. So a Visio drawing, which is what we've opened here, CHR notes visio.vsdx, is a drawing, and this drawing has multiple pages on it. We're on the Files page, and this drawing, by virtue of many different shapes have been used in it, has a local document stencil, and we'll talk more about this in the future. It has a local document stencil that holds all the masters, shapes if you will, that are in use by all the different pages in the drawing. So we'll talk more about masters and shapes in a future session, but for right now I just want to draw your attention to we're inside a Visio drawing, a VSDX file, and this drawing started life a long time ago from a template, a VSTX file, and a template can contain a variety of shapes. And as I think I mentioned previously, over here, if you have the shapes window open and you go to more shapes, you get a navigable interface that lets you choose from shapes that are available on the system. And I have a whole lot of shapes, probably many more than you have on your system, but we're going to learn how we can configure Visio to point to these shapes and take advantage of them. Shapes are held in stencils, so all these items here, page link cloud, page link oval, etc., these are called shapes. Very specifically, a shape on a stencil is called a master, so this shape link cloud is a master, and this stencil holds the master, and when we drag it onto the drawing canvas, it is a shape, and I'm not going to cover the data stuff we covered before. So where do the different templates and stencils that are located here come from? And notice down here at the bottom you can create a new stencil, and you can also go File, Save As, and we'll cover this in a minute, and you can save a document in any format. And this is the key thing to learn. The only difference between, in one sense, a Visio drawing, a Visio template, and a Visio stencil is the file extension. So if I saved this drawing file as a template, went to the File Save dialog and picked Visio template VSTX, this file could then become the starting point for a new drawing. Now typically you wouldn't do that, but where it is handy is you get used to a certain set of pages, a certain set of shapes, and you want to save that as a starting point, you would save it as a stencil. So let's go see now where we can configure Visio to look for the different templates and stencils. If you go to the File, Options portion, a dialog opens up that lets us configure different aspects of Visio. We're not going to cover all of these now. We're just going to focus on a couple of them. The first one we're going to look at is in the Save portion. One thing I would recommend you do is turn on autosave. Sometimes when I use Visio, it crashes. Not very often, but occasionally it will. And so if you're not in the habit of regularly saving your file, you can lose some information. And so I would recommend you turn on autosave and set it for some period of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever your threshold of loss is. The thing I want to draw your attention to, though, that is important for today's session is this default personal templates location. It doesn't matter where you choose, but I would strongly encourage you to create a place on your machine, maybe on your OneDrive, to hold your Visio templates. You'll notice here on my machine, this is in a folder called Office. And if I go to the folder in the file system, I've created a folder for each of the different Office applications, and I have my Excel templates and different things there. I have my Word content there, templates and other starting points. And in Visio, I've got a whole bunch of different stuff, but we're going to move into the templates folder. And so if you'll notice, the structure here is very similar to, I'm going to move this over and go back to more shapes. So you'll notice there, Azure, BD, Class, DevExpress, look here, and then look here. A lot of those folders are overlapped. Some of the folders, for example, Business, is out-of-the-box Visio. So what Visio does is it combines its out-of-the-box templates with other places that you direct it to use for templates and stencils, and combines them into this hierarchy here. So going back to File, Options, Save, I have chosen to put my default personal template location in, and it's on my B drive, doesn't really matter, Office Visio template. So pick a place and remember that. So I'm going to put it on the clipboard, Control C, and then I'm going to go to the Advanced section. I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom. A lot of these other things we can talk about in the future, but for today I just want to draw your attention to this File Locations button at the bottom of the Advanced section of Options. And whatever folder you chose, paste that into Templates and Stencils. And that tells Visio, in addition to the out-of-the-box stencils and templates that Visio provides, look in these folders. And I believe you can have more than one folder. You'll have to look up how to do that. I think it might be separated by a semicolon. This is where you want Visio to look. So this here in Advanced File Locations and the Save Default Personal Template Location, set those both to the same path. Why are there two? I don't know. Do you need to set them both? I think so. And then one final thing under Advanced, down at the bottom, I would encourage you to run in developer mode. So just check that. And that has a couple effects. The most beneficial one is it lights up the developer section of the ribbon and provides some additional features that you'll want to use as power users of Visio. So we have now looked at how we can set up Visio to point to our own templates and stencils and set a few configuration options. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, New, and if you click here on Personal, it will show you any .vstx file that it finds in those folders. So if you look over here, there's a business operating and personal model. That's that one right there. There's new company. That's there. So here's some drawings that are like starters. And then apparently under some of these other folders, I've also created templates, must be, from long ago. So I'm going to open up this one called, I'm going to start a drawing from this template CHR notes, just to kind of show you the advantage of using a template. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize the drawing we had open before, maximize the screen, and you can see that instead of starting with just a completely blank drawing, we have a drawing that's got a few pages in it. It's got some stencils already open. Some of these pages are of type background. We'll cover those. Well, let's cover it right now. So if we create a new page, I just clicked on the Create New Page button. You can also right-click on the toolbar and insert a new page. And by default, the name of the page will be the highest numbered page that's been created so far, where Visio knows how many pages have been created. So it created page 6. And I'm going to right-click on this page, go to Page Setup. And a page can have a few characteristics. You can click on these and, it's pretty obvious stuff. Setting up things for a printer, the size of the page, drawing scale. We'll talk about that at another time. But on page properties, you can change the name here. You can also right-click on the page and change it. You can say it's a foreground page, which is the default, or a background page. And pages that are marked background become available in this drop-down list, which has a few pages already there, notably default layers, navigation links, and page base, or none, meaning there is no background page. So for any page, you can set up a background page. So let me show you what a background page can do for you. And you can have a hierarchy of these. So I'm going to pick page base, and I'm going to close this dialog box. It doesn't look like anything's changed, but I'm going to go to page base. This is on the page base page. What I'm doing specifically you would not do, but notice I've created some text on this page base page, and then if we go back to page 6, that appears. So if you wanted to provide some content always available on a page, you use a background page, and you'll notice that I cannot select or do anything because that's on a background page. Now, if we go to page setup and change page 6 to be a background page, you'll notice it moves over to the end of the list, and every time you convert a page to a background page, it goes at the end. I don't think you can drag them around. Well, actually, maybe you can. No, you can't. You can't drag them around. You can do it programmatically, but typically that's not too much to worry about. So we still have a page called page 6, which seems kind of odd, but we'll just leave that for a minute. And then I'm going to insert a new page. And even though it says page 6, it's a little confusing because that is the next available page of a foreground page. So new page. And instead of page base, we're going to use page 6 as the background. I fear this is getting a little confusing. So no surprise on the, where'd it go? New page, we've got the same text from page base. And so if we go to page 6 and we insert some text, this is added by page 6. And we go to new page. So you can do a hierarchy of background pages. So I have used that in the following ways. Most of my templates have a page base that I typically don't use, but if you want something to always appear, that's kind of, out of the box. I create it for you so it's easy to use. And if I haven't already mentioned it, hold down the Control key. 1 is the way you get back to the pointer. So I'm just going to go delete that, and I'm going to go delete page 6. And it's telling me, look, you're using page 6 as a background in another document. Are you sure? And if I say yes, and we go back to new page, notice nothing's there anymore. And if we go to page setup, it's changed the background to none. Any page type of background shows in this list. I use navigation links and default layers for different purposes. We'll cover in a different session. But for right now, just want to expose you to a drawing can have pages in it. Pages can be of two types, a regular foreground page or a background page. And you can have a hierarchy of background pages. That is the basics of drawings, VSDX file, which can be started from a template, a VSTX file. So what I'm going to do now is close this document. Don't want to save it. And I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm just going to create a blank drawing. And this is not in any way necessary, but I tend to prefer my Visio drawings in landscape mode. And let's say we create a page called Notes. Create another page here called Links. So let's say we want to create a template that always has two pages in it, notes and links, and who knows why, but let's just say we want to do that. If we go to File, Save As, and browse to a location, and we're going to go to the location that we chose for our Visio templates. So this will be different on your machine, but if you follow the convention, Office, Visio, Templates, New Note, New Note template, and instead of saving it as a drawing, which is what it is right now, I'm going to save it as a Visio template. Of course, there's macro-enabled versions of these, but that's for a future time. So you can save a Visio drawing as a drawing, a stencil, or a template. So we're going to save it as a template, and the name's going to be New Note Template. So we're going to click Save. And now, let me close it so you're not surprised. So now if we do File, New, and we go to the Personal category, which is where it shows the template, there's our New Note Template. We click, Create, and there's a drawing that started off with those 2 pages, notes and links. So now you have, I think, some understanding of how those CHR note templates came to be. I decided, I just about always want these pages available in a new drawing, and I want these pages to be background pages. And as we learn more about some of the add-in capabilities, you'll see how some of those other background pages are used. So there you go. That's setting up Visio to point to a known location for your stencils and templates, and how to configure Visio using file options to point to that location. That's it for lesson 1, setting up Visio. I wanted to show you some examples of where background pages can be helpful. Here's some work I did for another company. It was some methodology work, and you'll notice that there's a variety of background pages, right-click page, property background, and I've used it to structure the look of pages that should be similar. So I'm just kind of clicking here on different pages, role page, process base, L0 base. Doesn't really matter what these are, but just notice there's some shapes and structure to these background pages. And then There's some more L1, level 2 of the methodology. And then if we click on all pages and scroll up here to some of the pages that should all be similar, the level 0 pages, the structure of the background page shows through, and so all the level 0 pages should have a similar look and feel. Notice the section in the lower right, it's the same. Here's some L1 pages that have a similar set of structure, and some of the shapes that you'd otherwise have to duplicate on each page just magically show up and can't be accidentally changed using background pages. There you go.